Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Sharna Southan. I am an angel mum, rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real-life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Sharna with you today. So today I wanted to talk about how loss affects those around you, and it expands a little bit on what I mentioned about my story in the first episode with, how my husband was there through everything that, we were experiencing. And, my mum was also there through everything as well. My mum wasn't there, obviously, through physically seeing me like my husband was, but there was a phone call that I made to her while I was laying on the floor in my bedroom with my feet up in the air because I was passing out all of the time. And I called her and I said to her, I think I'm going to die. And I could only imagine what she would have felt on the other side of that phone call, to hear her daughter saying that to her with absolute conviction that it was going to happen. In my mind, I was like, no one could bleed this much and survive, so it meant that I was going to die. And, she was reassuring me on the phone. She was, doing everything that she possibly could, apart from actually just jumping in the car and coming over to me. And the day that we found out that we had lost our baby, I remember the car trip over. My husband and I were so emotional. And when we got there, I didn't even have to say anything. She just took one look at me and just let out this wailing cry. And, still to this day, I can hear it. I can see her. I can see her in the moment that I told her. Not only was it a really emotional time for us, it was for her as well. And, I think, I often think about that moment. It's not one that escapes me. It's something that I feel like is etched into my mind. That car trip, the whole day really is etched into my mind. But the moment that I told her and saw her reaction was just, I realized at that point how much and how deep the loss affected her as well. And then she had to go through her own healing and recovery. That was a traumatic event in her life. And then she's got to go through the healing and recovery, in a different way, on a different level to what I was navigating. But she had to go through that for herself as well. And it wasn't until I was talking recently to someone else about, how much my husband had witnessed. And because I talk a lot about men and grief and how they do grieve, how they go through the process as well. It's just different. It's different for them again. Just as it was different for my mom, it's different for the men. They unfortunately have this, way that they have to show up. It's this, society tells them they have to be this strong pillar for everyone around them so that, and then it doesn't give them permission to fall apart. It doesn't give them permission to feel emotions. And, if they did feel emotions, it would mean that, they're not a man. But, on the day that we found out our baby had died, my husband he cried, and it's the first time I've seen him cry. And, that whenever I see him cry, I know that it's something huge. But why should it take something like this for them to start to show their emotions? But after that moment, after that day, he started to bottle it all back up inside and try to be the pillar of strength, try to be that person that he felt like I needed because I was falling apart. And, he witnessed everything. He witnessed everything from the moment that there was no heartbeat, the moments that I was bleeding, and he was Googling everything to try and fix what was happening, to try and control what was happening. He was there in the ambulance with me. He sat in the front seat talking to the ambulance driver while I was in the back. He was there at the hospital and witnessing everything at that point as well. He was there when they took me off to surgery to have an emergency D&C. And he was there on the other side of it when they allowed him back in recovery to see me and to take me home. And, for him, because I was going through so much of my own grief, which I absolutely had to, it wasn't until I was sort of on the other side of my pain, or even just, more so now, and it's like years later, I've started to realize how much he actually witnessed and how much he had to do his own healing and recovery, and how much, our relationship fell apart in times because we were not on the same page. I felt like I was falling apart and I felt like he was, wanting to go back to work. And I'm like, how could you do that? But, it's what he felt like he needed to do. And it wasn't until probably a year after we experienced the miscarriage that he actually opened up and told me how scared he was, how scared for me he was. And I was, at the time that he opened up, I was 6 months pregnant with our rainbow baby. So, he started to, to share what was going on inside of him. Obviously, at that moment, he felt like he was safe enough to do that. But it saddens me that, even for me to acknowledge what he's gone through, and they're not given the space to navigate the grief, to navigate all the emotions. And I think most men, not all men, but most men that I have spoken to, or I've been able to get an insight into when I've spoken to the wives, they all seem very much like my husband in terms of wanting to hold it all together, not wanting to show emotion. And sometimes that can be a really difficult time for the female because we want to see emotion from them. We want to be able to see, because we're hurting, we want to know that they're on the same page. But, we also do need to have that strength. So it's kind of hard, but I kind of wanted to just bring that to you guys today, because not only are we navigating the pain of the loss, those around us are navigating pain as well, just in a different way. Just witnessing my mum and her reaction to it, and knowing that my husband held on to his emotions and his feelings for almost a year before he felt like he could open up. And if I replay that day in my mind, that time in my mind, he witnessed so much. And I just take my hat off to him, really, because, he felt like he had to do what he did, and he was there for me, and he was my cheerleader on the sidelines, picking me up every time I fell. And I wouldn't have got through it without him. I wouldn't have got through it. I needed him to be who he was at that time for me to get through it. But I also wish that he was, able to open up to me more, able to speak about it more, sooner than a year later. 1 in 4 pregnancies will result in miscarriage. 1 in 8 women will experience infertility. 1 in 100 women will experience recurrent miscarriage. And 1 in 160 births end in stillbirth. Have you been wanting to make a difference in the lives of women or men who have experienced pregnancy loss because you can see so many suffering in silence, but you just don't know how? Collectively, we can change how bereaved parents can access mental, physical, and emotional support after their experience. There is a lot of women with unhealed trauma, and there is a huge gap in the current support system when it comes to bereaved parents' recovery after loss. There are too many women and men suffering in silence. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is a worldwide, one-of-a-kind program that gives you proven methods designed for healthcare professionals, medical staff, midwives, nurses, doulas, birth workers, coaches, and angel parents alike. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is bridging that gap. It will give you a proven support structure to follow and education specific to pregnancy loss, created by a lost mum. It is creating more education specifically for loss so that you can enhance your service and become the point of difference. Or you can create the support that you so desperately needed in your healing after loss. This is the next level of growth and expansion you have been searching for. So does this sound like something that you have been searching for? Let's explore this more together. You can head to the episode show notes where you'll find the program application, or direct message me on Instagram and let's open up the conversation in how you can use this education. You have a gift, and I look forward to supporting you and witnessing you bring your gift to the world, healing and transforming women's lives. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that to you guys today because that is part of it as well. Like some families, unfortunately, I have worked with women where the families just completely shut that whole experience out, and that's really, really difficult. Not all families are going to be accepting of the loss experience. Not all are going to want to talk about it. Not all families are going to want to acknowledge it. And that is really, really difficult for the lost parents because they don't have their families around them to support them, to guide them through such a difficult time. I was fortunate enough to have my mum and my husband there for me, supporting me no matter how hard it got. And, if you are someone listening in today and someone around you has gone through loss, it maybe hasn't been your experience, just see what capacity you have to be there for them, to allow them to talk about their experience, to show them empathy and compassion for what they've been through. And, if you are the parents of someone who has gone through loss, your daughter has experienced a loss, just if you can open up the conversation, see how she's feeling, even if it's just to say that you acknowledge her experience and you acknowledge her baby. It doesn't have to be a huge conversation or a huge gesture. I mean, just opening up the conversation is going to be a huge gesture anyway. Just allowing her to honor her experience and her baby and feel like she has your support. Thank you so much for listening in today. I just wanted to share that little piece of my story again, and I hope this was valuable to you as well. If you did find it valuable, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode. Thank you for listening in with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it to social media, and tag me at Institute of Healing_PL. I love seeing what is resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.